Hello.
With little heart things.
Oh, that's
Heart
nice.
eyeballs.
Heart eyeballs.
No, we're gonna start. Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Can it hear us over there?
Yeah. See the
okay.
little.
See the thing.
See the sound bar movie. You're provoking me.
I'm provoking you.
You're trying to intimidate me with your feminine prowess.
Hard eyeballs. What? Did you just say what? I'm not paying attention to you. I'm trying to intimidate you with my feminine prowess.
Yes, and it's working.
Because I'm standing here. You're a little salty tonight.
Salty. I found my eraser.
Okay. Yes, you did. Were you sitting on it last night?
I think I was.
I
don't know what I'm doing right now.
You don't know what you're doing?
Yeah, but that's how this always starts, right?
That you don't know what you're doing?
Yeah.
That's okay.
So is it going or not?
Yes.
It is. Okay. This is also recording up there, and
yes, we have the other camera set up, so it'll be a nice.
So there'll be something for
better recording. Yeah, apparently I was moving too fast, too much.
You?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm drinking. No.
Oh, what? What are you drinking?
I am not drinking that much.
That much.
Stop.
That's a relative term.
Orion's bastard said, "Y'all are hilarious."
I love names too. I don't know where the name comes from, but that's a cool name.
I know.
And thank you.
We are quite fine. You caught us on a good day.
Yeah. It would have been better if I'd have won my auction. I'd have been very
I
excited.
know. I'm sorry. You
I'm still excited though. I'll find one. That just meant that bow was not my bow.
I know, but it was a really pretty bow.
It was a pretty bow, but pretty doesn't mean much when it comes to bows.
Yes. Hey, how are you guys?
Good. How are you?
We are doing well. It's the end of July. Am I in your way?
Nope.
Okay.
And this is what last week we didn't do this.
No, we didn't do it last week.
We were catching up on some stuff, and this week we don't have kids here. They're all doing different things, so
There's
we're
no kids.
neither one of us have pants on. So I'm kidding. I have pants on.
Implying that I do not? Oh my God. I know, I'm sorry. Sometimes I don't have a steady hand. That's okay.
We could mount the camera on something.
Well, yeah, I could. Yes, I could. I could sit down.
But then you couldn't flail about wildly with your cinematography.
That's why the other one is attached with a...
This one is it's a Brio 4K.
And it's attached to the desk. So when I finally put it out.
So if you're looking for a more steady video, we'll have one that'll go up on our YouTube and on our Patreon thing.
Yes. And it'll be horizontal now. Woohoo!
It is. It's been horizontal for a while.
No, not the last two ones I put up.
Well, that's because you're
Because
way behind in the ones that I made.
Oh, okay. No, no, I'm not. That's it.
Oh, no, really? Because I don't think I've given you the last one you asked for. It's still on the computer.
What are you talking about? The last
live
feed?
The last video you said you wanted, or was
No,
that was mine on my phone?
The last feeds have been on my phone.
Oh, have they?
But the videos I'm asking for are the ones that you did for me like a month and a half ago.
Oh, those, yeah. And I haven't given those.
Yes.
So. But you did start working on the book again.
Don't know. Very good, Hub Alerts. Don't mount cameras when you're not wearing pants.
That's
good.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
You're on top of it. Can we see the inspiring photos? Oh, the ones by his desk, or the ones he's got some up here?
This is just browsing on Pinterest. And my feed's fairly well tailored nowadays, but I still get weird stuff up here sometimes. Like, I mean, if you like a skull in anything, you'll get like 1,000 skulls on your feed. But look at this.
Apparently,
that's beautiful.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then we have your stuff right
And then,
here.
well, this is stuff I just want to, like, if I'm doing something stylistically similar, I want to go back to it and, and see what I did at some different time. So
That's the
I have
Beauty and the Beast, and that's the
Stillborn King and Beauty, and which are actually kind of similar, but there's different language in them. But they're both organic drawings.
Yeah, but this language was in the last EDO.
Yeah, this has more more of a control kind of thing to it, whereas this looks more like spontaneous growth, right? So it depends on what I'm trying to go for. And then this is the kind of reference I keep on my desk all the time.
Yes.
And I don't always have like previous stuff of mine. It's just specifically if I'm in a frame of mode to continue like trains of thought.
Yes.
I'll bring out things that I've done before and not just have them there to look at for the language, but also for the level at which I approach them. You know what I mean? In terms of how far to take things. Like I have a few pieces right now that are along the lines of Stillborn King and like the last EDO that I did that are kind of waiting.
Yes. The general consensus is that pants are overrated.
Pants are overrated. That's true.
Bohemian Earspoon asks, do you have any tips for rendering detail in pencil and how to keep clarity in your detail? It's a good question. Most of the time, if you're talking about in reference to keeping the paper clean, that's what this is for. Got to be careful not to move the camera too much. This is basically a maul stick, and I have a rail on the top and bottom of my desk, and I can keep my hand off the paper. In terms of clarity and
details, I mean, if you're talking about like just little bits of line or sharp, that's kind of about what edge you're drawing on the pencil with. You can get a super sharp pencil and just pick at little details and have like an etching quality to things, which it's funny. I do sharpen my pencil a lot, but half the time I'm drawing, and I like drawing with the soft edge, just to get a vague line, and then I'll go back and pick like a point in that kind of in that passage to clarify and make more tight. But that's all about spinning your pencil and finding an edge to use. Gotcha. Or keeping it sharp,
Yes. All right, Santiago has a question.
Yes, Santiago.
Love your work. Greetings from Bolivia, but I have a question. Why always a guy in the middle of the page? I mean, why not in the corner?
That's because of the camera and wanting to be able to keep something, on target for people to see.
And composing with a background, why not compose? Well,
I don't usually typically start things spontaneously that are going to involve elaborate backgrounds without going through the entire process of kind of like at least lightly sketching things out first.
Right.
And usually when I'm on the live feed, I'm rendering things in whatever way that I normally do, no matter how I approach everything else. Like if it's a big piece or a small piece, this small focus of detail that I'm playing with here is
how you start.
Is how I at least get into the graphite part of it. But I mean, that being said, I have no problems. I'll pick a weekend and we'll do that too. It's just that it tends to look more like, it looks a lot more sketchy when you start off with a larger piece that way, right?
Right.
This lets me start sketchy and get into some detail before the end of the hour.
Now, truly though, you will always...
I'll always go back to these.
But you'll also sometimes you'll do a piece, you'll start it in the middle, but you won't use the whole
paper,
yeah,
I typically I'll crop the page depending on what I end up doing. And I actually like working on paper that's bigger than the image that I'm, going to end up with for that exact reason. So I'll compose kind of on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But there are times definitely when I'll, lay things out, more formally beforehand. But what are you doing?
The dog is whining.
We have a little dog. He's trying to get outside. So I hope that answers part of your question. It's not like, there's no like a serious reason why I don't do it, other than just it's a bigger thing to get into on a 1 hour video.
Right.
So
Diamond Dreamscape says, have you ever used stone paper? It's very smooth and durable, which seems like something you'd like.
Stone paper. I've not heard the phrase. I've heard Stonehenge, if that's what you're talking about, or if there's another type of paper that is specifically referred to as stone paper. I haven't heard of that before.
Yeah, because another person says stone paper is amazing, but I feel like the complete lack of tooth wouldn't be conducive for your style. You know, I'd be willing to try it though, because I've often used smoother paper, and that actually lends itself to, you know, different types of rendering, right? And you know this if you've played with it before, that you can make texture, but you have to literally draw the texture into the piece instead of revealing the texture from the tooth.
Right. Right.
You know, so. I used to use like that 500 series plate finish Bristol, which is fairly smooth. When I would, but you know, I don't very often. I don't get into things that are overly smooth across the whole piece.
Right.
Like
right.
I like to contrast a small area of something smooth with textural detail or something.
Surrogate Life says, "Happy Saturday, much love."
Oh, thank you so much.
Santiago goes back to his question, no, but don't you think background is part of the work?
I think
it should
well,
not only be a character in a white background.
It depends on what you want. You know, if I want to draw a character in a white background, then I'm perfectly happy doing that. If you want to draw a character in a world environment, then do that. You know, there are times when I'm called upon to do that, and other times when I don't.
Right.
Is it important? Yeah, of course. It's important if it's important.
Right.
Is it always important? It just depends on what you want to do.
Right.
I mean, that's just my opinion. You know, I love people who do I love most of the artwork I love is very finished out, like to the background type pieces. Right. So, you know, I'll never say it's not important, but.
And this is one of his pieces that is finished out completely to the background.
I mean, both of these are.
Both of them are, but when he's doing a live feed and everything like that, it's not very.
I mean, granted, they are both very central compositions, but they're still finished out to the background.
Yes, but then it's also not very interesting to see you go through.
It just takes I mean, for this sort of thing, it takes a long time to get that, you know, to render that to a point where it's interesting to see.
This is several. What? How many days?
This was probably 2 weeks worth of drawing.
Yeah,
because this piece was this big. It was that's a small version. It was like this tall.
This is a print.
Yeah, and the other piece was a little bit bigger than that.
But still, it took it.
But I did a drawing of this, and then I did a painting of it, and both of them, they both took about a week apiece.
So if he was working on this in the middle of the live feed, then you would see him going very slowly down the background.
Right,
or rendering this part or something like that. So it's just, this is more interesting to see, for people to watch. That's what we usually do.
Well, I mean, yeah, and for what I'm doing, it's like typically this is more what people ask questions about. But I know I love landscapes. I love compositional stuff that is more fully scene composed or like cinematography. Yeah, no, that's all very important.
Jones says, "You're a saint for doing these live videos, and I always learn so much. Thanks."
Oh, thank you.
Says, "Great, love your opinion. Thank you for asking the question."
Oh, was that Santiago again? Oh, thank you for asking it. It's you know, it's a great question. You know.
Sorry, I keep hitting on the type here. Now it sounds like we have a werewolf outside.
Oh, well, a tiny one.
A very tiny werewolf.
Very tiny werewolf. No, actually, it's funny because I just did a Muddy Colors post about hands and feet, and that you will only ever start to approach like the challenges when you kind of get to a point where it's time that your interest increases in doing those things. Like a lot of people don't do hands and feet.
Yeah.
And or they say they hate drawing hands and feet, and that's my dog outside barking. But a lot of times the reason people hate drawing something is mostly because they feel like they don't do it well yet, and you can't really learn to do it well until you get over drawing things that you don't like for a while.
Someone asked if that's an Alvin pencil.
This is not Alvin. This is a Caran fixed pencil 77. It's a lead holder that has a an 8B. I found these 8B leads on Amazon, which are the softest lead that I found so far for mechanical pencils like this.
Oh, and then you mark the end of the mechanical pencil.
Yeah, I did that with my little engraver. So I keep one as an 8B and this is a 4B, and then I have a couple of different things. Like I have a 10B for broad soft stuff, and then this little mechanical pencil that's like a 0.9, I think 1.0. No, he's not bothering me, but you can let him in if you want.
Sculptastic says I draw with charcoal pencils.
You know what? Some people have asked me about charcoal. I don't. It's funny because you know, I love seeing the charcoal drawings that I've seen that have some beautiful range. I just have not played with charcoal very much and not used it very much.
Yeah.
She's gonna go let the dog in so he stops barking. But figure drawing, but I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, love that the what is it, the malleability of charcoal in figure drawing. I think that's why it probably gets used, and the fact that you can get such dense blacks with it. And I actually do have like a charcoal holder and the soft, medium, and hard charcoal sticks that go with it. I just it erases. It seems to me like it likes to float off the paper. It's so light when you put it on. But I know that people can get really dense black with it. You know, it's just working with it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Micah says, I like to mix graphite, charcoal, marker, and pen.
Oh, that's cool.
Sometimes you don't.
I've done that in some sketchbook work before, because you know you could. It's that as long as you know, like for me, I have to kind of do the whole piece with a lot of techniques. If I just do one area or another area, it looks out of place. But when I start like in the sketchbook, if I play with it over the entire range of the piece, it works. It works out okay.
Yes.
Usually.
All right, you guys, our website is AllenWilliamsStudio.com, and what else? Oh, this will be up on the live feed if you come a little late.
And also on the Patreon.
Our Patreon is at Allen Williams Studio,
Okay.
patreon.com/Allen Williams, pardon me. And then we do have a Facebook page if you still do the facey tweets.
Facey tweets.
At Allen Williams Art. Bohemian Ear Spoon. Have you had any formal training in drawing? So does it help enough with skill to be worthwhile or versus self-learning?
It my opinion about formal training is it depends on what you like to how you like to learn, but it also very much depends on whether or not you find a teacher that is going to teach you what you want to learn. You know, I'm you know, based on what I've done in my career, I can say that most of what I've learned has been stuff I learned after I left school. I'm not. I mean, I say, you know, self-taught, but that means self-directed, self-guided, because you know,
it's not like
it's not like I'm sitting. And, yeah, I don't like. I didn't have to. I just found teachers that would teach things on an individual basis. Like I went to IMC, the Illustrators Masterclass. I found a lot of stuff online. I watched you know, like Ian McKagan, the Gnomon workshop videos and stuff, which are just fun if you want to see somebody that just is in love with the joy of drawing and will just fearlessly, you know, play. And that's kind of what it taught me a lot. You know, just the attitudes and stuff that he represents when he works. There's even they have a Barlow. Like if you're into Wayne Barlow, the Gnomon workshop has a video of Barlow doing some creature design and rendering as one of his creatures and stuff, which is really pretty fun to watch as well.
Someone asked if you're related to the artist Kent Williams.
I am not. I am not.
Someone else has asked that.
He does brilliant work, though. Love it. I love Kent Williams' work. No.
Color Speaks says one of your posts is on her phone background.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Angel with the tattered wings. The words of the image resonate with her soul.
Oh, thank you so much. You'll find that, I mean, I don't really consider any one way of doing things better than another way. It just ends up being what suits you in the long run, you know.
Right.
It's like learning, you know, it's like, you know, there's a lot of old martial arts movies where one school of martial arts will, you know, assert that it is the, you know, it is the best way of, you know, the best martial art, and it's always proven to be the same answer every single time, though. It's always the artist that makes the art, you know. So however, as soon as somebody comes out with a technique and somebody else says, well, that's not a professional technique, and there will be somebody that'll come along and show you how wrong you can be.
How wrong it is, yes.
You know.
Soft Caitlin says, I'm in love with your artwork. Thank you for the countless amount of inspiration.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Jamil
Thank
says, normally I draw from what I see inside my head. Is that something you do too?
Yeah, kind of. It's more, yeah, definitely.
That's what you're doing now.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now. It's more of a, you know, Rorschach test of what I, you know, the kind of imagery and stuff that I play with a lot, which has a lot to do with like physical structure, like even mortal structure. If you could, I do a lot of things that are like in my own personal work, like a lot of organic imagery and even a lot of bone-ish and fleshy kind of things, but not so much so that what's funny is most of the time when I draw things that are skull-like, they're skull-like. I don't draw a lot of full-on skulls for things, and the reason being for that is that I like the implication of the shape more than the shape itself, and there's a lot of guys who are doing some really awesome skull art out there, and I think if you're into that you should do it. But for me, it's not so much about the skull; it's about the representation of like mortality in it in the piece. It's an aspect of.
McGregor Digital Art asks, "What do you use for sharpening a lead? Mechanical or knife?"
For my mechanical pencils, obviously, it's one of these Staedtler sharpeners.
Staedtler?
These are,
Oh, wait. What was that part used for?
It gives you the length of the lead if you want a sharp point.
You can't see it. You're moving your hand.
I'm sorry. So if you want a sharp point here, if you want a slightly less sharp point here. And I use these because they have, these things, you can get larger portals on the top. They come with different sizes, and for using mechanical pencils, there's really nothing that keeps a pencil as raised, it's like needle sharp, right? Generally, though, for wood pencils...
That's a Staedtler, right?
That's Staedtler, yeah. For wood pencils, I use like a Carl Angel 5, these metal ones. These metal sharpeners.
Oh, sorry.
And I always end up... let me see if I can get it over. There. I always end up going... I probably don't know if you can see. I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's a little piece of metal in there. Can you see it? It's right in there. I end up filing that down because that's a lead point, a lead stop, and it'll make you have a blunt end instead of a sharp point. And so I end up going in it with a Dremel and just, getting rid of that. And then for like a pocket pencil sharpener, I use these chrome long points automatics. They have 2 stages, like one strips the wood off the pencil and the other one sharpens just the lead. And these are like the best ones to have in your pocket, in my opinion. So.
Thank you for the live feed. Hi from Mexico and brutal job.
Oh.
What movies do you like?
Oh, I watch a lot of, everything, but I watch a lot of bad horror movies.
He does.
I like, because there's sometimes
not necessarily bad.
Not well. When I say that, I mean, they don't get a ton of stars on. I just, and I watch, pretty much everything. Like right now, I'm watching The Boys that just came out. It's that sort of, if you're watching the Netflix, it's about the Netflix. Is it? No, it's Amazon. It's on the Amazon. It's where the superheroes are kind of bad guys, which is it's a strangely prevalent topic out there right now because Brightburn just came out not too long ago, and it's about sort of like what if Superman came to Earth and was actually like a serial killer. I haven't seen that yet either, but I like all kinds of movies. I like some fantasy.
Evil Dead 2?
Oh yeah, I mean that was fun. That's so much fun. We saw Evil Dead in college, like a year the year it came out. I think it was like playing in your college theater. Do you remember that? We all went to your college theater and saw that.
God, Evil Dead 2 or the first one?
Well, they were all. I mean, the first one, Evil Dead, and
Shelly Vision asked if it was bad. Question mark. Bad?
Is it bad? Well, Evil Dead
in a very good way
is bad in its own beautiful way.
Yeah, I know.
It's campy, and it's Bruce Campbell, being that
stick.
Being over the top guy, which is in its own way fun. It just depends on whether or not you like that sort of thing.
The Ninth Gate, have you seen that?
I have seen The Ninth Gate. That had Johnny Depp in it. He that was I thought I can almost find something to like about every movie that's made.
Believe me, oh my God.
Which is a point of contention because I'll say watch this movie and Vicky will say
not anymore. It was when a point of contention when we always had to go out to movies because then you would have to spend
money. Yeah.
lots of money. And now when you have Netflix and Amazon and Hulu, and he goes, watch this, and I'm like, oh.
But see, I used to do
I
that.
think I had to go to bed.
I used to do that with artwork too. I would show Vicky. I was like, look at this guy's ink work, and she would like freak out because she was looking at what he did, and I was looking at how he did it. And it was
right.
it was
That is true.
It was Faust. It was the Faust pen and ink drawings from back in the 90s, and there were some brutally horrific scenes in there that I didn't even notice because I was just looking at the ink work.
You were looking at the line work, and I was looking at.
And you were actually looking at the content.
And I was like, whoa.
So I can find a lot of things that I like for whatever reason, but I typically I do like a lot of horror. I like
The Gate.
The Gate was fun, I mean, that was the whole, if you listen to a song backwards, it'll open a gate to hell. I mean, it was kind of the culmination of that, yeah. And it had the closets, they were called, the little closets.
I remember the closets, yeah.
Yeah.
Campy and bad are different. That is true.
That is true, but definitely. But I have sometimes a hard time even defining certain things as bad if I enjoy them, even if they are bad.
He watches everything. He likes everything.
I haven't really been able to get into things like Sharknado. So I will say
Sharknado.
I can't get into those. Or the three-headed shark, and I'm sure there will be coming a three-headed Sharknado at some point. But I mean,
you know what? We've never watched Sharknado.
I've only ever seen bits and pieces of it, and that's even a little far for me in terms of.
What is the one that you said that was that's going to be remade? The one with the. Oh my God! How can I not remember it?
Which one? Well, they need to do Cast a Deadly Spell again.
No, not well, I love Cast a Deadly Spell. Yes,
yeah.
They do need to do Cast a Deadly Spell.
But it's dated though.
The one with The Gate. It's very 80s though. Like.
The Gate.
They open the gate. Comes through the mirror. This is like.
Oh, Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, that was actually pretty awesome when it came out. At least I thought it was because of the concept, and the fact that it had such enigmatic references in it, like when the evil guy made reference to the great god Cobalt, and like what does that mean?
I know.
Okay,
now they're talking about the Pumpkinhead. And is a favorite.
I have watched all the Pumpkinheads.
He
and I liked a lot of the creature design, and I, some of these things you just love because you do or you don't.
Burglar is asking about the piece of wood. Yes, this is a piece of wood that lays on. This is a 1.5 inch by 1 inch.
Yeah, it's this piece of molding up at the top and the bottom, and then I have a ridge on it to keep it, and I have a hook and a wire to keep it from falling. If it slides down, it'll catch. But this is basically my version of a mall safe.
So yeah, it does slide side to side.
So yeah, definitely, and it'll even I can, if I need to go one direction or the other, and it'll go all the way across the desk if I want to move things around somewhat. But I typically work from the right side, so if I can cover most of the desk with it on this side, then I'm good.
They're asking if you've seen The Cell in the fall.
The Cell was a beautiful movie. The Fall?
The Fall, yes.
The Fall. I don't think I've seen The Fall.
Tarsem Singh movie.
I'll have to look that one up. But The Cell was actually really kind of the most beautiful thing at the time that it was made. It was so you remember it was she had to go in the man's mind and the serial killer.
The Cell?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I ever saw The Cell.
No?
No, because when it gets really gross, I have to bow out because I'm like, ah. Isn't that the one where the horse was
there was
in house?
Yeah, there was an image in there that was part of, I think, I don't remember who did the original. It seems like a Damien Hirst thing to do, to show a half of a horse, a horse cut in half.
Yeah.
But there was that in there, and there was all this really beautiful imagery that was basically locked away in the serial killer's mind. So.
Wait, there was another question. We've gotten distracted by talking about movies. Do you think, Mountain Claw asked, do you think there's a ceiling at how scary they allow horror movies to get?
I think there is. I think there's definitely, because I personally think, this is only, my opinion.
Yeah.
This is a contention among me and some of my friends, but I personally think that really a truly good horror movie, when you walk away from the theater, has left you slightly psychologically damaged.
And it is not necessarily brutal.
And it doesn't
have to show a
it doesn't
lot.
need to be that brutal to do it. It just needs to open up a possibility in your mind that didn't exist there before, that lingers with you afterwards. It has to be in some way, I know this sounds weird, but it has to in some way hurt your psyche a little bit, because that's true horror, right? When
But
it
it
really
doesn't necessarily have to just show gross stuff.
no, it doesn't have anything to do with like gore or jump scares. I mean,
Right.
just blood and guts and stuff like that. That doesn't really, that's kind of easy.
Yes.
I will give you an example. I think Hereditary is psychologically, it's a good horror movie.
Oh, and I've never seen it.
She's
You
never
told
seen
me,
it,
You
but-
were like, you don't have to see this. It's okay.
Because, well, I mean, the whole idea of it, and how they went about, revealing what was going on in the film, to me, that's because it starts off in a way kind of, mundane, and it really wasn't about jump scares, but there was some really horrific kind of things that happened in that film.
Okay. And then Helena says, going back to art then, how much do you feel the media you consume influences your art?
I think that your art is kind of birthed of everything that you read and watch, and and everything that's around you. I think it's a big part of your visual library of things that you pull from. I mean, I feel like if you like beatific imagery, that finds its way into your art if that's what you look at a lot. I think if you're asking if I think that it's influential in what you do, I definitely do. I think the stuff you watch, the stuff you look at, is all part of that library that goes into your head, or it's a language that goes into your head and gets reorganized into your own sentences.
We've talked about that. It's not just digital media for you. It's not just film, but it's also audiobooks. It's things that we talk about,
Right.
stuff
Like
that we see on the road.
Today I was quoting a comic book that I read when I was 14 years old, and I could remember verbatim, line for line, this one panel in the book, and I was talking to Vicky about it. And that's actually how a lot of ideas happen. They kind of like are grains of ideas that get planted, in one way or another, or in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then they grow in different directions in each person's head. I mean, the same person might have seen that that same story I was talking about earlier today and come away with an entirely different take on it.
Right.
And it's that way with everything, right?
Yes.
I mean, your art's basically, even no matter what kind of art you do, I think I hate saying things that are absolute, but I think that no matter what kind of art you do, it has to come from your life experience in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the stuff that you've watched or stuff you've been through, or if it's meaningful, it most likely came from somewhere.
Carly asked if you'd seen Godzilla 1954.
1954. I've watched especially when I was younger. I watched all the old Godzilla and Ghidorah, and I watched all of that. I haven't seen them lately. I haven't rewatched them.
All the old Twilight Zones.
Oh, everything. Yeah, and I always loved those things too. I used to watch. I was a big fan of Ultraman for a long time when I was a kid. I used to watch that quite a bit, and I think they remade that not too long ago.
Ultraman?
Yeah.
Don't know.
But if somebody needs to remake Prince of Darkness, though. First off, if you watch it now, it's hard to watch because there's a lot of polyester in it. It's like very dated style-wise.
Yes.
And language-wise, it's very dated. But the concept of it, is pretty cool, I think.
Someone asked they need help with surreal art.
Surreal art. In what regard?
I don't know. They said, "Can you help me?"
What do you? Well,
I guess it would depend on.
I would hope so, but I don't know. And I mean, unless you have a specific, if you're talking about surreal art, the movement, I don't know historically that much about it, other than I tend to like a lot of German expression and German surreal stuff, like Hans Bellmer and those guys.
Oh, Harley said, "I'm 11 and I love your art, and it helps my need for horror."
Oh well, thank you. I mean, that's great. I was very young when I was drawing creatures from the time I was 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Vicky's seen. I made birthday cards for my mother when I was very young that were just rows of monsters wishing her happy birthday.
Right.
And that was like 3 and 4 years old. Just when you're old enough to draw and actually make words that people understand.
Do you know Nicola Samori?
Yes, I do, and I love his work. I do. I love his work. I mean, his work is very. There's more to his work than just the. He's one of those people like Dennis Forkas Kostromitten, that their work seems to be more than the sum of the parts. You can say how they did it. You can see how they did it, but there's a present. There's a
I
present.
don't know exactly.
There's a presence to it.
Right.
Not a mystery and technique, but there's a it's that the presence that it projects that comes through it like a power. You know.
Your art is so amazing. I just finished my art course and got the top grade, but I'm a musician first. How do you recommend getting back into practicing?
A little bit at a time, very small amounts. You'd only 10 minutes a day is enough to get you hooked into something. And this I'm paraphrasing from Ian McCaig, because if you ever have a chance to talk to him, he'll tell you the same thing. All you need is 10 minutes a day to start. Little bits. Don't overwhelm yourself by saying that you're gonna jump into something wholeheartedly and then like not live up to some expectation of it. Build the love back into it by doing it a little bit at a time.
Right.
Eventually something will take hold.
Right, and you can use that for what Harley said too.
Yeah.
Just a little bit at a time, you might explore different areas, especially if you're looking at surreal art or working surreal art. Stanislaw Beksinski, yes.
Yes,
Beksinski.
Beksinski is one of my favorite artists. What's funny is that for a long time, I saw Beksinski books in the background in my world, but never picked them up or browsed them and didn't see them. And then one day I picked one up, and all of a sudden, everything that he was doing or that I saw in that particular book, it clicked with me.
Yeah.
And I had been seeing it. They've been around for a while. And I know I've picked his books up before. It's just that, there are different times when certain things mean more to you than other times. So.
Simon says, Chris Foss said a long time ago that he had a secret technique for making his pencils super black. Any ideas what he was talking about? It drove me crazy trying to figure out when I was a kid.
I have a couple of things that I do if I want to get super black with certain things. One of them is that I spray fix the board with a matte medium and then work back into it with like a Nero prism, like a Nero black, which is an oil-based black.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything specifically about Chris Foss, but I can tell you that I can make something that looks like black velvet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
With that technique, and I'll do that at some point. It's a striking technique and an original, but it's hard to convey online.
Yeah, it's hard to see it on the camera.
But I've done that to a point where people have asked me if this was just like the piece was just a print, and I've actually had to give them like legal paperwork that says that no, this is an original. It is not a print, because of the technique itself. It kills all the gloss of the graphite, which when you kill the gloss, all that darker gray tends to go black, or darker.
Right.
It goes darker.
Right. Do you listen to Primus?
Primus, not specifically, but most likely I have it in the past at different points. I just sort of set radio stations going on on like Google Play or something like that, and let them run. And I don't usually. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I like. It's funny, but I don't usually ever know who's playing it, except for with a few exceptions over the years.
Right. Debbie asks, can you show at some point in the future how you alter your pencil sharpener for a finer point? We have
a tutorial on it that we can point you to.
Yes, I have a PDF, and I'll throw it up on Instagram sometime.
It's not very difficult to do.
No.
Especially if you can if you pull out the the barrel of that and look at it, it'll really become self-evident as to what needs to be done, and then you just have to find the tools to do it. Like with the plastic Dale sharpeners that are built similar to that, all you have to do is unscrew them and then pull out the plastic part.
Oh, okay.
With these, you have to kind of grind out the metal bit.
Do you usually photograph or scan your finished works?
They get scanned. In the end, I bought a used Epson scanner off of eBay that works really well. It's one of the it's 11,000 Expression XL. It does 12 by 18 scans. But in my opinion, the Epson scanners are the ones who have the highest range in terms of black to white. And so it does really well for the graphite stuff that I do.
All right, so it's 9:50, but we started at 9:10. So we have 20 minutes left, and our website is AllenWilliamsStudio.com. This will be here up under the stories if you missed the first part for the next 24 hours, and then it'll go to our Patreon page. which is at patreon.com/AllenWilliams. We also have a Facebook page and Instagram here. Facebook is Allen Williams Art. Oh, Twitter. Sometimes I throw stuff on Twitter.
Yeah. You want to see some really nice pencil work that is reminiscent of Barlow. There's a friend of mine, his name's Amilcar Fong. He's also on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
You can check out his work, and he does a very delicate yet detailed rendering and things as well.
Mm-hmm.
You would say that his work is like if you were to take Barlow and Geiger got married and had a child, it would be Amilcar.
Right.
So.
Andrew says, do you start drawing with a clear idea in mind or start with a simple shape and then keep adding things as you go?
Yes.
Greetings from Costa Rica.
Both greetings to you. But both of those are accurate depending on what kind of thing I'm going for. If I'm doing concept work, I typically will I have a brief where they have an idea of what I should be drawing, and I do that. When I do my own work like I did here, I will typically start with something. Not start with something, just start and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But there will come a point where, if I get to a point, I'll either finish this or I'll take this image and I'll use it. I'll redraw it into another place.
Right.
So
Right.
when Santiago asked earlier, why don't I ever start over in the corner of the page? Well, because normally this is another answer to that question. I just start drawing and see what I find, and then if I need it to be composed differently, I'll move it into a different piece.
Right, you'll move it onto a different piece of paper and everything.
Yeah. So there was more than one answer to that question.
Yes. This is how do you make illustration for a living?
For me, it took a while, and I had to do a lot of different things.
Yeah, we've done. We direct sale to people since the 80s.
If you want to illustrate. As an illustrator, and you're not talking about doing your own work and selling it, then you look at who's publishing the kind of work that you want to do,
mm-hmm.
and you tailor your portfolio. You make 5 to 10 pieces like that, and you send them 5 pieces that are your best work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty standard. It's pretty straightforward. The hardest part of it is just not taking no for an answer and continuing to go back when people don't like what you're doing, and keep doing it, keep learning, and
right.
keep trying to and keep developing your own voice in the work that you do, which comes about. You can either attack it and look for it aggressively, or you can passively just work and let it come out. It happens both ways.
Right. Well, Siren Sketches said, I keep being told that I'm basically going to be poor if I continue to pursue art, and it discourages me and scares me, honestly.
All of my friends are artists, and they all make a living doing it. I want you to know that the fact that whether or not you are poor in doing what you do in art will be determined by whether or not your work is suitable to where you're trying to get it in,
right?
And how much effort you put into it. I was told when I was growing up that if I was going to be an artist, that I would starve to death. I would literally my father told me I would be begging for money on the corner, and that never happened. If you want to do it. And you're willing to.
I mean, and it's hard, but it's...
No, don't ever let anybody tell you that it's easy.
No.
And don't ever think that, I mean, I've never met an artist who got into this to be rich. I have met artists who got into this to do artwork and then eventually became what you would think of as rich.
Right.
But there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of people doing it. And if you go on someplace like ArtStation or the Behance network where there's nothing but artists posting, there will be plenty of people to tell you that you can make a living doing art, no matter what your style is.
Right.
You can have a very primitive, simple style that is just elegant and beautiful, or it can be clunky and fun, like a children's book style.
Right.
Or it can be Baroque and.
You just have to, if you're putting the work out there, make sure you're getting it. If you're trying to get jobs or work with someone, don't go to a company that isn't suited to your style.
Right. It'll make you feel like you're not doing the right kind of work if you don't know where to put your work once you do it. And you like there was a time, when I did stuff that was more closely related to romance fantasy type art. Mm-hmm. And I always felt like inadequate doing that, because it was never really me. Even though I did pretty well at it.
Right.
But it was never really me. you know,
We
because
sold at Renaissance festivals.
because technically you can learn how to draw any physical thing. You know, that's why there's an academic school of drawing and painting. You can learn how to draw and paint. What you draw and paint, though, that's very specific to you.
Right. And visual, Jamie said, also getting a day job doesn't make you any less of an artist.
No, not at all.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've had different day jobs. Yeah. I mean, I've done roofing.
Yes.
You know, I've worked in you know, warehouses. You know, after a point, you know, like back when we were in college and stuff, I did that kind of stuff all the time.
And then for a while you were doing the art and I was working out of the house.
Right. And it was about 1988 is when I started doing everything art. You know, it just sort of like, and even after that, for a year or two, I still did other jobs when we first got together. And then it was like a couple years later, you know, this was all I was doing, but there were two of us working. Yeah. And at that time, Vicky was doing other things and also working, but we were both, you know, making money. And so that helped a lot. So, you know, there's a little bit of, you know, if you have someone that you're working with, sometimes that can help, but it's not 100% necessary. You know what I mean?
Well, and also depends on where you live and,
you
know, how much your expenses are. And
it makes things easier if you have somebody to share, you know, the bills and everything with.
Sure.
But you can't rely on that. You know, you can't, you know, specifically hunt down somebody that's just going to be your art partner.
Right. Yeah.
You know, unless you get together with a group of artists, and you know, and you can do that sometimes.
Did you just say you can't specifically hunt
down an art partner?
Or an art partner.
Well, I didn't want to, you know, because you don't, you know, it's just but
I worked at another job until 1998.
Yeah.
Is when I quit my job and decided to work full time with you. So for what?
Whereas when she worked at the other job, we always had steady money, but I always made money too. It's just that my money tended to be like bursts. It was like
of money. Yes.
I would have 3 months of intense work and then 2 months of not working, and then and that's over.
To quote Monty Python, he's right, you know. Yes.
Well, the thing is though, is that that first thing, the first hurdle, almost every artist I've ever met has to overcome, are all of their friends telling them they can't do it.
Yes.
That's
quite often their family.
Yep, and very, very often their family.
Yes.
You know.
Stoic Inc. says, I'm a Patreon member and I was wondering if there's an option to donate and get a personal art critique. I'll happily pay for that. You know what? I'm working on that. I'm working on a complete kind of rehaul of Patreon.
We're open to it. It's we're just going to figure out how to. I'm right now. This is unusual this weekend because I am involved in another project that is not disclosed at this point, and so I do have. I do work that isn't my work and isn't illustration, but it is concept work for film.
Right.
So usually about a quarter of my year is done. I'm doing film work, and then the rest of my year is done doing personal work and illustration.
Right.
David
has, I have similar concerns about being poor. I've thought it would be great to work as a fine artist, but I have no idea how I'm going to pay off my student loans.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with having a job and paying off those student loans and figure out your voice for your fine art.
You know what? Yeah, don't let anybody ever make you feel bad for making a living.
No.
Don't let anybody ever make you feel bad for having to do what you need to do to survive. And you know, you will find your job that will allow you to have the kind of mental energy that will let you, well, first, you know, keep you safe and make you, you know, fed.
Right.
But then also let you have enough energy left over to be able to, you know, to do the work that you want to do, and just do a little bit at a time. You know, even if you can only hit a half an hour a day sometimes. I said 10 minutes earlier, even if it's just 10 minutes to start. If you do 10 minutes worth of work every day on something, you would be surprised how soon you will have a finished piece.
Yes.
And
sometimes when we're hanging out at night, like after this, you'll probably sit on the sofa and, well, first we'll eat dinner because the kids aren't here. Everything's just like way late.
Right. But I usually keep something on my lap when I'm watching TV. I don't ever just watch TV. I'm sort of like that ADHD like that. I can't just do one thing all the time. But the one thing I can do is this, right? And so I'll keep something on my lap all the time.
And it might not be a fully finished piece that you're working on, but it could pull out ideas for the next thing.
Right.
Because what's in half of the drawers in here are pieces and parts. This guy might either be finished or he might just get pulled into another piece.
You know, or I might work on him
large.
for a longer period of time, and he might be next month's EDO. I've done that a lot.
That's true.
Very
That is
often
true.
when I'm working in front of you guys here on the live feed, that image ends up going into an auction on the 23rd of each month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everydayoriginal.com. Siren Sketches says, thank you for your words and encouragement.
Yeah, definitely. Also, make sure that you have a place where you can have a presence online, even if it's just a portfolio, that you update. You don't have to update it all the time.
Right.
But if you're wanting to do work, the primary thing about that is getting seen. Having a place where people can go and look at your work, and there's a lot into that too. But just start with a place where you can keep your work.
Absolutely. Yes. Just keep it on there, even if you feel like it's not being seen, just to keep placing it up there, because you never know, and eventually it will be seen.
And imagine how many people will love to see just the progress of your work from when you start it to where it goes. And people, people very like to identify with that, and you'll find other people that are trying to do what you're trying to do too, and you'll be able to even talk more about it with them. Just don't ever let anybody tell you no.
Right.
Even a teacher who looks at you and says you don't have what it takes, just tell them to go take a leap, because they don't know.
Right.
I didn't start doing the work I'm doing now until I was already in like my 40s. And and there was a time that I've seen people's work who did very well, who, if they had started now and showed the first work that they ever did, everybody would have told them to quit.
So Harley is asking, is it okay to start by drawing things that already exist in pop culture?
Well, yeah,
Absolutely,
if you're talking about
yes.
stuff that you're specifically like fan art and stuff like that, yeah, you can.
Well, she's 11. You started out drawing comics.
Yeah, I drew Spider-Man was one of my favorite guys to draw when I was a kid, and the Hulk, because he was all muscle and he was like, I could just draw big circles, for the Hulk.
Well, and sometimes you start off by tracing them and then moving the picture.
When I was a kid, I would don't you draw what you love to draw?
Yes.
Anything that gets your hand on the paper.
Right.
Just do that. Whatever it is that you like to draw it.
Yes.
As you get involved in it, obviously there are things that, in terms of doing
later
fan art
on,
you can't really.
No, but Harley's 11.
Yeah,
so
you can draw anything you want.
Anything you want.
Yeah.
Draw
everything.
Maeve likes drawing, who is it, Steven Universe?
She does. She likes drawing Steven Universe characters quite a bit.
10.
Yeah. You draw whatever you want.
All right, Norbert says, thanks. That was a nice coffee chat. I had a great time waking up. It's 5 a.m. here. And headed out to do the unpaid work there.
Oh, well.
Have a good one.
Have a good morning. Have a good day. And then, just keep a sketchbook with you somewhere.
Gotcha, Harley. Harley's a boy. Draw whatever you want to right now, Harley.
Yep.
I mean, I know in your art class they might want you to draw specific things.
You got to get a grade when you're in an art class. So don't just do what you have to do to get your grade. But for yourself, draw whatever you need to draw to make yourself happy.
Absolutely.
Even if it's like dead fish, which it's not. I know you're not talking about dead fish.
Are you looking forward to the new Dune movie? Dune.
I am hopeful. I loved the visual. Like I say, I'm a very visual. I love the visual Dune, the last one, and I would love to see it. I'm not one of the people who hate having remakes done of their favorite things. I actually like it because I still have my favorite thing, the ones that I used to like, and I just want to see what somebody else does with it now.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's a lot of creative people out there, and I think there's a lot of things that can be,
and
reinterpreted,
and for a new audience, right? A younger audience.
Well, I mean, every generation reinvents a lot of the things that went before it, but it's it doesn't do any good to sit back and go, this is junk because it's a new thing. It's just new people figuring out new things based on what they like.
Yes.
There's no reason to hate on something just because it doesn't maybe live up to the expectation you had of the thing that you liked. That's my opinion, but I like seeing new people play different parts. I like seeing new movies being made in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
You're
awesome for answering all of these.
Oh, well, thanks for being here.
I know. All right, so everyone's going to draw at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes, man. That's it. That's all you need to start. Little and often makes much.
That's right.
I
That is the philosophy in our house.
I found it was on a fortune cookie one time, and I took it and I glued it to my desk.
Yes.
And little done often makes much. My kids live by that, and what's the funny part of it is if you start off like that, just small, you never can tell when it's going to take hold, and all of a sudden you're working 2, 3, 4 hours a day. But even if it takes a while or doesn't happen that way, it'll evolve in the way that it's supposed to, for your needs.
Right. Harley says, thank you for the support. My uncle helps inspire my art because he drew the cover of his yearbook.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
It's always good to have supportive people around you.
Probably one of the reasons I draw is because when I was young, my uncle would draw a lot. He stopped doing it pretty quickly. I think by the time, he was a very young guy too, though, when I was young. And by the time I was a teenager, he was in his 20s, but he had stopped drawing already by then. But that's okay. He did his own thing and he went his own way. But I kept drawing.
That's right. All right, you guys, we're going to wrap it up here. And we should be back next week. We will see. If not, you can find us at our website at AllenWilliamsStudio.com. We're, of course, here on Instagram. This will be up for 24 hours, and then I'll put it up on our Patreon, which you can follow us on Patreon. You do not have to, you can just join Patreon and follow us. You don't have to put anything in, and it's that is at patreon.com/AllenWilliams. We're on Twitter. It's I_JustDraw, just like here.
Yep.
Anything else?
No.
All right, we're going to take off. We have more questions coming, but we'll hit you next week, all right? And we will see you later. Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks a ton.
All right. All right. Goodbye.